Hey guys, this is David Hike, and welcome to video 3 in our series. So today we will be actually promoting our two Windows servers to domain controllers, and in the process creating our domain. So let's again take a look at our net diagram. I'm going to do this in the beginning of every video so we all stay on the same page. So, as you can see, we have DC2 in the perimeter network, right behind our NAT router, and then we have DC1 in our most internal subnet, behind our second router. Alright? And you know what? I see an actual error in this video. Our exchange box may actually be situated in our perimeter network. Okay, I haven't decided yet. I don't think it would really make a difference. The only thing you have to be, and we will reiterate this when the time comes, but I believe your exchange box has to be in the same subnet as your schema master. Okay, so the schema master role is one of the 5 FSMO roles of the domain controller. So anyway, but we'll get back to that. So last time we installed the Active Directory Domain Services, DHCP, and DNS roles on both of our Windows servers. So let's go to DC1 first of all. Second to come up. Excuse me. Alright, and here we are, and you know, we have the same page as where we left off last time. So feature installation succeeded, configuration required on our computer. Alright, and actually this is a good reminder. So as you can see, our computer name is still the default Windows assigned computer name. So we're going to change that right now, as a matter of fact, before we actually do any of the actual server configuration. So to change your computer name, if you've never done it before, you can, on Windows Server 2012, right click on the Start button, go to, I believe it's under System, alright, yep, and then as you can see, computer name, right here. We're going to go to Advanced System Settings, computer name, and then change. Now, you can change your computer name to anything you want. Typically, you want to change it to something relevant to the situation. So, what most people will do, if it's a DC, your domain controller, you will name your computer DC. And usually, there's some other identification in the name, like the site it resides in or the company it's for. However, we're not going to worry about that. We're just going to say DC1. Okay. This is also where you join a domain if there were one created, and there's not at the moment. So right now we're just going to click OK and change this computer's name. Okay, before restarting. All right. Yep, and every time you change the computer's name, it will require a restart before the changes take effect. So we're going to restart now. We're going to do the same thing to the other server quickly. And I can head out the time it takes to restart. Alright, so yeah, as you can see, same point here, and we're going to change the computer name. This is DC2 we're on. So we're going to go to System, Advanced System Settings. And really, the process I'm showing you here for adding roles and features and changing the computer name and things of that nature, it really hasn't changed much in the last few versions of Windows Server. So Windows Server 2008 is very similar. I mean, you do all the you add features, roles and features the same way, and you even change the computer name in the same way. The only difference is the buttons are in different places. Name this one DC2. Okay. Let me start. Okay. Maybe, if we're lucky. Oh. Well, those will close. If we're lucky, this... Okay, it's got to update. I guess we weren't lucky. Okay, well, I'm just going to sit here and edit this out when time comes. So let's just sit here and let our computer do its updates. Okay, and we're back. It took a lot longer than I thought it would. But anyway, so let's sign back in. As you can see, we're still using the built-in administrator account, which is, we're going to change that after we create our domain. You could actually create it beforehand on your domain controller, and that account, that local computer account, administrator account I should say, will be carried over to the domain. Or you can create it afterward. I don't really think it matters. One thing I did remember though during that incredibly long load time was something I actually forgot to do upon installation, and something that you really should do before you create your domain controllers if you want to avoid problems. So anyway, as you can see, my time right here is set to 6:33. That is not the correct time. Alright, domain controllers replicate Active Directory data between each other. So if the domain controller's clocks are out of sync with each other, it will cause major problems. So let's see the time of our second domain controller for fun. So let's go ahead and .634. Okay, they're actually in sync with each other, but they're out of sync with the rest of the world. Okay? So, but this is easy to fix. What we're going to do is go to our ESXi host right here at the top. That's, that's what this signifies, this symbol. Go to configuration, and then go to time configuration. Alright. Okay, as you can see, this thing's clock is set at 9:37. Okay, and keeping this error. Okay. Alright, well, there is a way to actually force the ESXi host's local time onto its virtual machines. And I'm not sure why it's doing it. Let's click refresh and see what happens. Okay. That's interesting. Well, like I said, there is a way to replicate its date and time to your VMs, and I've done it before. I can't seem to remember how it's done right now. It doesn't really matter. You can change them manually just as easily. And you just go to adjust date and time. Time setting. Alright, it is the 6th of April, 9:37. Okay. Now, you want your domain controllers to be ideally within a second of each other, you know, as close together as possible as far as time is concerned. Alright. So if they're a minute apart, that probably won't cause problems, but it might. You really want them to be as close together as possible, and right now they are as far as the minute and second are concerned. It's just the hours were off with the rest of the world. Alright, so there. The clocks are synchronized, and we can continue with what we were doing. Alright, so let's go back to DC1, and go to full screen. Doesn't seem to want to do. Let's go to full screen here then. Running into all sorts of problems today. There we go. Okay, we are back to our VM, and we're ready to promote it to a domain controller. So, first things first. Here are the new roles that we just installed. You can see them in your on your dashboard in Server Manager. ADDS, which stands for Active Directory Domain Services, DHCP, and DNS Server. Okay, so let's go to our notification flag up here at the top, and you should always check this if you see a yellow arrow or a red flag. If you're unlucky enough to see one, so we can do two things: complete DHCP configuration, and we're not going to do that quite yet. We will in a minute. Instead, we're going to promote this server to a domain controller. Okay. Alright, now we have this is the wizard for promoting your server to a domain controller. So add a domain controller to an existing domain. We don't have an existing domain, so we won't select that. Add a domain to an existing forest. We don't have a forest of domains, so we won't do that. A forest is the next level of organization. So you would have a forest of different domains, and you have a group of computers within a domain. So what we want to do is option 3, which is add a new forest. Okay, specify the information. Root domain name. Okay, the root domain name can be whatever you want it to be. It should end in, I believe, I'm not sure. Well, it'll tell you if you're wrong. So let's use our domain name. I'm going to use Anishnabmon. I can remember how to spell it. I'm going to use Anishnabmon. I'm going to try .com and see if it accepts that. I don't think it will. Oh, and it did. Interesting. I thought it would only want the... Let's try this and see what happens. Nope, okay, it wants a fully qualified domain name, not just the... It wants a .com or a .org or a .biz. Or it's going to be a local domain, so it can really be anything you want. It can be .local if you like, but we're going to leave it as .com. The reason I chose Anishnabmon is because it is exactly 15 characters long, so it will fit the NetBIOS name perfectly. Okay, let's go to next. Anishnabmon means the Indian language. in case anyone was wondering. Alright, hope I got that right. Alright, the forest functional level. So you can set your forest functional level to whatever you would like. Well, anything no lower than Windows Server 2008. So what this means is you would set this to the either on the domain or on the forest functional level. You would set these to the lowest possible setting that of a server that actually resides within your domain. So if you have a Windows Server 2003 edition in your domain, you would set this to Windows Server 2003. However, you're not given that option. Okay, so the lowest you can go is 2008. So if you had a Windows Server 2008 in your domain or forest, you would set it to that. And it looks like it's not even letting you change it in your domain. It's only in the forest functional level. We don't have anything below Windows Server 2012 R2, so we're going to leave it at that. Okay. Specify domain controller capabilities. Okay, being that since it's the first domain controller in the domain, it's making you have DNS and global catalog. It won't allow you to choose a read-only domain controller because you require a global catalog server in order for other workstations to log into your domain. Okay, directory services restore mode. I'm going to create a password for that. What you can do with directory services restore mode is it's a mode you boot your computer into in special circumstances. For example, if you want to do an authoritative, or I think even a non-authoritative restore from a backup of your domain controller, you need to boot into the directory services restore mode. So we're going to use the same password I used for my logon. Let's see if it accepts that. I don't think it will. And it did. Okay, great. Don't forget that password. Write it down somewhere because you may need it at some point if you ever need to restore from a backup. Okay, DNS delegation. We can skip this. Okay, the NetBIOS name. This is the first 15 characters of your domain name. And as you can see, initiative one, it fits perfectly. Okay, you should leave these as the default. This is where your database folder, log files folder, and sysvol folder will be kept. Changing these directories will result in problems. I would leave them as the defaults. Okay, so this is just a review of everything we've configured so far. And you can view a script of what you've... This is a PowerShell script you could run just in case you had to do it again and you would want to do it much quicker. You could run this script, but we don't want to. So click next, prerequisites check. It's going to run a check and give us any errors if it finds any. It probably will find a couple. Okay, yep, and these are a lot of these errors are pretty typical. Windows Server 2012 R2 domain controllers have a default for the security settings name allow cryptography algorithms compatible with Windows NT 4.0 that prevents weaker cryptography algorithms when establishing security channel sessions. Okay. Well, we certainly aren't running Windows NT anywhere, so it doesn't really apply to us. Delegation for this DNS server cannot be created because the authoritative parent zone cannot be found or it does not run Windows DNS server. If you are integrating with an existing DNS infrastructure, you should manually create a delegation. Okay, we are not integrating with an existing DNS infrastructure, so this is an error that you will receive almost every time you create a new domain controller. You can ignore it. As you can see, neither of them are critical, so it will allow you to install or promote your server to a domain controller. Okay, and I think that's where we're going to quit today, guys. This video went a little bit longer than I thought it would. but we covered a lot, so hope to see you next time. Thanks.